Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a card. Well, I think it's quite a masculine card, but really soft as well. It's for a dad in this case, but you can easily recreate this and make it for a mom or another person that you really like. I'm using the Life is But a Dream stamp set from Hello Bluebird, and I'm going to color several images using my Copic markers. I decided to, just stamp a few out. All of them can be used all together on a card, I think. I don't necessarily need to use all of them, but it's definitely an option. And in the end, I also ended up using all of them, so that was really handy. Otherwise, I would have put them on the back of my stamp set just in case I needed it on another card. So my greens are really muted, really moss kind of green in my opinion. I love this combination. It's a really gorgeous Copic marker combination. In case you want to revisit Copic marker combinations, by the way, you can always find them on my blog post. I'm trying to list them there for each part of the coloring. So in this case you have yellow green 67, 97 and 95, and altogether it works really well. Now for the critters as well as the boat, I am going to go in the brown kind of family. I love using browns, you know me, I love the warmth that the browns give. So for me that's always the way to go whenever I'm coloring critters, but of course you can color the bear black if you want to, or even snow kind of white if you want to. Many possibilities. However, I did try to incorporate several brown combinations to just show you, but as always you will also see that my combinations, there is not one combination where there isn't a brown marker from another combination in it. The strength as well of your Copics, in my opinion, you can definitely use several markers multiple times and still get a completely different combination in the end, or end result in the end, because of that one other marker or that one darker or lighter marker that you're adding to your combination. I think that's really great, and I think that's also a way that we should look at our markers whenever we try to buy more, that we really extend what we already have. So the bear is going to be really dark. It's E79, E59 and E57. Later on I will use that E57 again to have it as my darker color on the combinations. Now for the shadowing, I decided to keep all of my shadows on the left side. I didn't know yet where I was going to place everything, so I didn't know whether I could play a bit with changing the shadow or not. So I went for all of the shadows on the left side so that I could place everything everywhere, depending on how it was turning out. So the fox there, I'm using one of my favorite fox combinations. It's E18, E15, E33, and then I will work further from that with the lighter areas on the fox. It's a combination for me that, well, it sort of shouts out orange without being orange. It's like the orangey brown version of the browns, in my opinion, and they're definitely gorgeous orange combinations as well for foxes. But if you want to keep it in the brown markers, for me this really is kind of the perfect fox brown. And then of course I'm adding second layers wherever I need to. This paper is Transotype perfect coloring paper, and for me it works great for Copics. I wouldn't recommend any other paper since I use this one. But for me, most of the time it also means a second layer, and there's nothing wrong with a second layer. There are other papers, and sometimes even on this, that I definitely need 3 or 4 layers. It just is important to know how much your paper can handle, and in case you're a heavy ink blender, or you use tons and tons of markers on your first layer, it might be that your layer or your paper needs to dry first. That first layer needs to dry. Let it set, let your paper rest a bit, and then it can handle again quite a lot of marker. That's just the important thing to know about the specific paper that you're using, so that you don't have that issue of bleeding. So something cool that I saw by the design team when this stem set was featured to be released is that I think it was Sarah Soppy that like added all of these details to the boat. She made like an yeah, I don't know how to say it, but she embellished the boat. It was gorgeous. So if you haven't seen that card, definitely check out Instagram or the Facebook group from Hello Bluebird, because actually it just opened a door for me. I'm not really in the comfort zone when it comes to drawing things myself. I need stamps because I'm just not a good drawer myself. I need an illustrator or someone as genius as the person that is designing Hello Bluebird to do that for me. So I'm really scared when it comes to adding details myself and such, but it's truly genius if you can. When you add them, it's like a whole other world is opening. It's gorgeous. Okay, that being said, for the water, I had no clue what I was going to do. I already made a card with this stamp set. If you haven't seen it, definitely go back a bit in the videos. It's a completely different one. It is a really dark one. I used a really dark paper and I die cut the other image, if I'm not mistaken. Or did I use the same? I have no clue. But I die cut the both kind of image, and then the water wasn't colored, and I just thought, oh, it goes really well with that really dark cardstock. It can stay white. Now, in the case of this card, I ended up also ink blending on the boat, well, the sea area. That will be for later on. But here I will just stay away from the water with my markers. So I'm just adding all of these brown combinations, and I really love how this image is coming together. It's really soft and gentle, in my opinion. And I'm also reusing the combinations again and again. Here the duck, I'm going for this kind of is a lady duck, I think, because I'm not adding tons of rainbow colors like the male ducks most of the time are, or at least in Belgium. Well, I suppose everywhere. Like the female of the bird kind of image, well, critters are most of the time brown, and then the masculine cuties are all kind of colors and such. So I stuck to the browns here because I have everything brown except for the seagull. There's just a tiny bit of shadowing on there. The rest is all browns and greens, and well, a ton of fun actually. So then for, I'm just going to add a bit of red as well here. And then I will be die cutting all of the images out, playing with layout, how I'm going to make this into a card. It really was a ton of fun, this process. So here are the matching dies. And then for my panel, I decided to take the nesting Deckle A2 dies from Hello Bluebird. I really love these nesting Deckles dies. They have A2 and mini slimline, and I'm just in love with both of them. I love the fact that the edge isn't that perfect, but at the same time it's really fun. For the sentiment, I took the Charlie Large Outline Alpha die from Hello Bluebird, and I die cut that. I'm only going to use the inside of the dies. There is also that outline as the name says, but I'm not going to use that. So just that. And then I decided to also add a sentiment, a secondary one from this stamp set. So once I was happy with the layout, I decided to take it upon me to start ink blending. And so I just took these really fun, bright colors, also a bit of yellow, and I just had to know where I needed to go, right until where, with my water. So that's why I added the post-it on the side to just help me. I needed to get to that specific line, sort of. And then the sky area was going to be really airy, a bit of yellow, a bit of cracked pistachio, to have a bit of interest but not in your face. So I wanted the sea or the water kind of area to be quite dark, and then upwards I wanted to have several shades, so really light ink blending there, a bit everywhere, and then mixing and matching the yellow in between. And originally I thought that this was going to be my background. I was going to add it this way on top of my card base. But I ended up not liking that. I don't know why, it just wasn't framed enough, so I literally die cut a frame on top as well. So here I'm just making it a bit darker towards the bottom of this panel, and then I ended up taking a mini ink blending brush and really softly started adding that blue as well. I didn't want to touch the bow too much, so I really went subtle here, mixing the two blues, then checking with my panel whether that was working or not. I was quite happy with that. The only thing that was bothering me was that fishing thingy, the white was covered with the blue, but I ended up using a white jelly roll pen to fix that and to just get that white back in there. There you go. And if by any chance the blue was coming through, I would have gone back on top of it with the white jelly roll pen once it dried to just reinforce that white a bit more. So here I had my layout and I was really happy with it, but it just was missing something. And with all of the white outlines from your images, when you're doing a complete background that is ink blended, you can always go for a white frame. So I ended up taking the nesting Deckle A2 die again, but also the smaller version, and I just made sure to die cut it and create that frame. So that frame will stay white. And of course the inside panel I kept for next card in the back of my die cutting set. But then that white frame was going to match up perfectly with my ink blended panel, and that way it was way softer and I really loved it. This way the ink blending popped, in my opinion. So the only thing that I had to do before really adding that and such was to stamp out that secondary sentiment to really make sure that I like the end result. Now the bottom elements I can already add, and then since I am going to layer things on top of each other, I decided to add this bow straight on top of my panel, not doing any dimension here, because the duck and then the greenery will go in front with some thin foam squares. So I'm just making sure there, and then this frame I just had to make sure as well that I was lining it up perfectly. It will not go on there perfectly if you turn it around. So there is one way to go, and then I made sure to really have it lined up right until the edge of the panel. Now onto those tiny elements. Here I wasn't afraid about not having that secondary greeting on there yet, because it wasn't going to interfere. For that and the seagull, however, I first had to add the secondary greeting. So here I'm just making sure to add enough thin foam squares on the back. And then I will place it just in front of the boat a bit. And then for the duck, just make sure that if you're adding things in front of other things, that the overlapping parts you can better either you leave it out and you add liquid glue like I'm doing, or you add some more foam on the areas where you're not overlapping so that you really have a higher image there. So now let's first add that secondary greeting. Now originally in my layout it was a bit wonky to that. Just by stamping "You Float My Boat" on top of the panel, I decided to go with a straight dad. It was just a bit easier for me design-wise with the straight sentiment to add it straight as well. So since I stamped the images with some black ink, I'm also going to stamp directly on my panel with black. You can also white heat emboss this sentiment on black cardstock or another colored cardstock, but I didn't do all of that this time. So once it was laid out straight, I could stamp it out. So I'm using the same ink here, the extreme black ink from My Favorite Things. And then I will make sure with my T-square ruler to have the dad straight above the sentiment. And then to have everything incorporated in the design, I ended up adding the seagull a bit overlapping with the D. This way really the sentiment was drawn in this design, really being a part of the scene that we created. So I'm sorry for my head. Normally I try to cut it out, well, out of the video kind of thing, but well, I just have to make sure every time that it's straight. So that's that. And then I could add this panel on top of a card base. If you want to, you can definitely add embellishments on top. You can add more images even, or glossy accent stickers. I didn't do that because this scene is so, well, I think it's just perfect on its own. I also think whenever I'm creating a more masculine card, and I don't know why, but unconsciously I am most of the time leaving out embellishments because I want it to be pure as is. And I think that's why I left it as is as well. So that's my card for today. A Father's Day card maybe, or just an appreciation card, or maybe for his birthday. You can easily transform it if you need another type of card. I truly enjoyed creating this. The whole process was so much fun. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got inspired. And I want to thank you all for being here, for supporting me. I wish you all an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!